This is the CW Spiral, a podcast run by three survivors of the CW's calling in 2022. We're your hosts, Sabrina Reed,
Michael Patterson,
and Reed Gaudens,
bringing you history about the network and the WB, the latest news and in-depth Sporterville discussions of the best and messiest shows to ever grace the small screen. We're back! It's been a bit, and we don't have anything CW for you because we want to talk about music, so that's what's happening on this pod. We're going to open up by discussing albums that have recently come out. Now, for me, the thing I've been listening to is Cowboy Carter, but Reed, as our music connoisseur to the fullest, our pop historian, what have you been listening to?
If we're talking the past 2 months, Eternal Sunshine by Ariana Grande has been on constant spin. Deeper Well by Casey Musgraves. Also Cowboy Carter by King B. What just came out? Tori by Tori Kelly, obviously. Gearing up for the Tortured Poets Department. I feel like I've listened to it, but I also haven't. It's just the way the fans have talked about it. I'm like, we need the content. But yeah, I think what I keep going back to most is Eternal Sunshine.
Interesting. Why?
Yeah. Sabrina's like, what? No, I don't know. I think for me, I don't know if you would agree. It's a little bit of a different flavor, I think, of Ariana's music. So I've just been, I don't know, there's bops on the album, and I've been, as a stan of hers, I've been hungry for new music since Positions. It's been a while. It's a long gap for her.
So, as you know, I have not made it past the first two tracks because they sound sonically the same to me.
You're missing out.
Like, I have not revisited. I need to. It's one of those things where you, like, when you're not enjoying an album at first, you're like, I'll go back. But like by the time you go back, everybody else has moved on. New albums have dropped. Perhaps they've even dropped like dance mixes or a collab that wasn't on the album, and you're back getting your life to something everybody else was listening to 6 months ago. That's probably where I'm going to end up being. I do like Yes and I think Yes and featuring Mariah Carey is nice. It's different. I know nothing about Mariah Carey's dance mixes from the 90s. It's not what I was listening to in the early aughts, I'm assuming, but apparently the people who know, and this is not new for her. She's true to this when it comes to the dance mixes, but I enjoyed their whistle tones and her fuller voice on the track.
Yeah, the remix, I don't know if I'd call it a remix, but the feature, it was different than what I was expecting. I think harmony-wise, the key was a little different, so sometimes it's still jarring for me to listen to. I love Mariah. Anybody out there, don't get me wrong. I'm like a low-key lamb. But yeah, I keep going back to the original, and the extended Yes and mix is really good too. But I don't know, I just really, yeah, there's an extended version. I think it's just the intro is longer. I don't think she didn't add like a verse or anything.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm still gonna listen to it.
It's just longer. But yeah, I really love We Can't Be Friends. I don't know. Even though it sounds like Dancing on My Own by Robin.
Yes.
Which is a bop. But I don't know. I think she needed her own version of that, considering what this album is about. So yeah, I don't know. I can't stop listening to that and The Boy Is Mine. Good stuff.
I will listen to The Boy Is Mine as well. See, when I hear that though, I think of the Monica and Brandy song.
I was expecting it to somehow like be a sample, but I think the title's just an homage to that song. It has nothing to do with it, but I do love that song too.
Okay. Well, Michael, I know that you haven't been deep in the wells of the new album, but what have you been listening to for the past few months since the opening of the year?
I mean, like you guys probably know this already because I talk about her nonstop. Kylie Minogue's album came out at the end of last year, and I think it's her 16th studio album, and that was just it for me. As soon as Padam Padam was released last year, I was like, this is just quintessentially Kylie Minogue, but also quintessentially 2023, which is just a beautiful embodiment of what she's always done, is why she's so timeless.
They won a Grammy.
Yeah, exactly. Her second one in 20 years. I mean, like, what a comeback for her. Um, she's been always she's a huge sensation in the UK. I feel like she's probably bigger than Madonna over here, or at least on the same level. So anything she does turns to gold. But over the last decade or so, she's been doing kind of like a country album, which was amazing, a classic discos album, which was amazing. But this is like right back to her early 2000s roots. It's like so full of so many like early 2000s pop bangers, which is one of the reasons I loved it because that was obviously the Kylie Minogue music I grew up with. Um, and I can just I listen. I couldn't wait for the album to come out in September. When I listened to it, it just was incredible. It's been a long time since I've listened to an album and loved every single song on it because no matter how
Ooh.
much you love for your favorite artist, there's one like that's an album track. That's kind of skippable. I never felt like that with her. Maybe that's just the like biased kid in me that loved her growing up, and because this album sounds like that it's like, oh yeah, that takes me back. Oh yeah, that takes me back. But no, I feel like there's like slow disco ballads, there's like modern pop songs, Padam Padam being the obvious choice. And like it's just banger after banger. Even there's a deluxe edition with some tracks that could have just been album tracks. And one of them was so popular it climbed up the iTunes chart ahead of most of the other tracks on the normal album. So I mean like she knows how to pick them. And every single song she's released from it as a single, whether it be the album track Tension or the like more beautiful Hold On to Now, it's just been classic after classic. It's yeah, like I said, it's been a long time since I listened to an album through and through. It loved every single song on it. But the magic of Kylie Minogue, I feel like this is definitely one of her best albums. All of her like devoted fans definitely are ranking it in like her top three. Um, for me, it might even be number one. Like I've loved every Kylie album, but like since back in the days of her like Can't Get You Out of My Head in 2002 off the album or 2000 the early
Yeah,
2000s.
that
It's
was a
been a
hit
while.
here.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's why y'all like know her and because like she was a huge in the UK for like a decade before that and ever since she like left Neighbours she released songs in the 80s and then in the 90s and then when she hit that more like disco pop kind of era in the early 2000s and I Can't Get You Out of My Head catapulted her into US stardom
Let
as
me
well.
ask. I
Uh,
know her song Love at First Sight too, but I
mhm.
don't know if I just like know it from somewhere or I can't remember if it was a hit here. Was that song a hit over
I
there, Love at First Sight?
It was a huge hit over here. I think it was around the same era as Can't You Get You Out of My Head, actually. It was I think that was her biggest album at the time, and it was a huge hit over here. I remember I loved it. I was obsessed with it. Um, and then I think that maybe I'm wrong. I think that might have been the one that won the Grammy in the US 20 years ago. So
Maybe.
I think it was very well received over there. Um, uh, and then she was on such a huge what's the word trajectory at that point, bigger than ever. But not, I think, in a year or two after that, she was diagnosed with cancer and had to take a couple of years off to recover. And she's then started been evolving her music ever since. I feel like now is kind of where she's reached that level again. Like to get, I think she was quoted herself as saying once that to reach that level of stardom once in your career is unattainable, but to do it twice in your career is practically unheard of. So she's just been living in the moment, enjoying the pandemic, as the world has been calling it. The song becoming such a TikTok sensation.
I mean, it
Um,
just goes to show that anything can happen and artists have longevity no matter like I don't know. I would just tell Stans like be careful who you call a flop because I mean, just because their songs might not be hitting on the charts, you never know what could happen in the future.
Hmm.
hmm And it's so much harder to make it these days in the charts. I know we've talked about this off pod before, but ever since the incorporation of streaming into music or into the music sales, it's just practically impossible for class or for like general normal pop hits don't chart as high as they used to just because you have the stand streaming one artist and then they could dominate the top 10 or you have like a classic like Sophie Alice Baxter's Murder on the Dance Floor. Again, huge fan of that in the early
It's on the
2000s.
radio all the
Uh,
time here,
That's insane to me.
and so many people probably think that it's a new song. It's 20
Right.
years
I
old.
know. I know. She made her US TV debut 20 years after the song came out. Like that is incredible. Um, but like that was a huge hit over here. It charted at number two the first time around, and now it's charted at number two the second time around. Just get her that number one, damn it. But like that's the beauty of streaming. But at the same time, when that happens and a song becomes like a global phenomenon of streaming, it's going to be harder for any new hit to reach the top 10 or reach the top five. Like they
Hmm.
used to, I brought up Padam Padam before. That was probably the song of the summer, maybe even around the world, but definitely in the UK. It was at the number one of the download charts for weeks, number one of physical charts for weeks, and it's still only charted at number eight just because of the streaming being incorporated now. Um,
Meanwhile, it probably didn't even chart here.
I know. I think it charted on some of the other like US dance charts, but I don't think it made it onto the Billboard. Um, which is just that, you know what I mean? That's the modern era of music we're in. Like
It didn't.
like you see, that breaks my heart because it is a hit. It was a hit everywhere, but nowadays you don't have to chart to be a hit, I guess. Um,
No, you don't, but it does affect everything. Like
mhm.
I mean, I don't know if it's just because we're getting older, but when the younger generation are like screaming about somebody and I haven't heard of them, don't know them, I haven't seen them, but they are losing their minds over the person like on TikTok and other social media platforms. And part of me is like, is it just because I'm older? Is it like, and so I'm not,
It's definitely part of
where the cool kids are anymore. Like I'm not in the underground. I'm not hearing things for the first time. Usually it's like, oh, so and so's been out for such and such a money. It's like, oh, cool. Well, this is the first song I'm listening to, and I'm enjoying it. Though it is interesting that every generation still has that I was here first
Mhm.
feeling that like, and then they
Mhm.
want to kick everybody else out. Like, but you weren't here during the days when it was one dusty microphone in a basement. I was like, that's great, glad, but like it's fine to be on the train with you, regardless. You have all the deep cut history and lore. I'll just enjoy the songs.
Yeah, we grew up in the time where they had pop stars fighting for their lives at 8 a.m. on the morning shows, performing their
Hmm.
songs, trying to get people to buy them. That doesn't happen as often anymore because there's no correlation between performing on Good Morning America and your song selling a bajillion copies when it's released. Like it's not a necessity in the industry anymore because you can post a TikTok and cross your fingers that the sound goes viral and people make videos and then the streaming numbers go up and then radio plays your song. It's all a different strategy now. Like there's so
True.
many like morning show clips that go viral and it's so funny to think that like that's we're not going to get Fergie doing her one-handed cartwheel or Hilary Duff performing with love in Times Square. Like we're just not going to get those moments anymore. And it doesn't create like if a song isn't a hit, it becomes a hit because of those moments in a
Mhm.
different way. And like it's just not, it's so different.
I think I'd
Mhm.
rather do that though, as far as for instance, if I was a pop star, I'd rather be in the era where you have to wake up early and do Good Morning America and hope that the microphone turns on. Rather than be in an era which they always have to be online.
Yeah.
Like there's really no off switch. Like the girlies who popped out during the era of TV being the thing that made your song pop got to do their thing, do some morning press, maybe some afternoon press, and then go home.
Hmm.
Like now they're like if you get to do press, great. If you're not doing that, then you're going to be on social posting. Or if you're not posting, we're banking content so that we can post when you're doing other things.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I cannot tell you guys, in back about 15 years ago, the excitement around when an artist was performing on the X Factor, because the X Factor was the most watched show of the weekend, it and Strictly neck at neck every week, but X Factor always had the edge in those first couple of years. And like no matter who was performing on X Factor, people would turn it on, they'd watch the guest performance, and then all you'd have to do is look at the iTunes chart an hour or two afterwards, and that artist's song would be in the number one spot. And because that's all that mattered back in those days, the iTunes chart, that song would generally end up
Yeah.
hitting number one. And it was like, and then they had Cheryl Cole, who was a judge on the X Factor when she performed her first solo single, "Fight for This Love," after she left Girls Aloud, instant number one. Whitney Houston's "Million Dollar Bill," she made her TV comeback singing that song, instant top five, I think, maybe top 10 hit. One Direction, Leona Lewis, Kylie Minogue, anyone who was on the X Factor performing in that guest slot, instant number one. And when the X Factor winner was announced, obviously they'd get to sing their song on the X Factor final, which was watched by 10 million people. that was on Sunday night. The following morning, I remember getting dressed for school, watching GMTV. The X Factor winner would be singing their winner song on GMTV. Then maybe on this morning, 3 hours later, then they'd be wheeled out to a radio show. Then later
They
in the
really
week,
had to
there'd be
work
like
for it.
they
It really
really did.
did.
And by the end of the week, there'd be the Christmas Top of the Pop special, and they'd be singing it on that. Usually, when it was announced that they hit the Christmas #1 spot. Um, Television was such a titan, and it still is in a certain way. Over here, we have less on TV than you guys, so there's a better chance that the song might perform well because more of an audience is watching the one thing. There was a beautiful same-sex routine danced on Strictly last year to a Coldplay song, and it's an older Coldplay song, and it instantly started going up the iTunes download chart after that because Strictly's
Hmm.
watched by 10 to 12 million people. It never hit #1. I'm sure it did in its heyday, but the point is, yes, we have less on TV over here, so if you have enough of an audience, people can still tune in. But the iTunes chart is still outdone by the Spotify streaming numbers, so it'll never end up charting in the same way that it used to, if you know what I mean. Um, it's wild to me that when you were younger and you'd see your favorite artist be doing something, I wish I could promote them in this way. Now all you need is a random TikToker to share a song, and like it turns into a trend, and there's not necessarily any money needed for that, and the song can go viral because there's been so many people who have released songs the general way, the natural way, and decent hit, fine, but not many people heard about it. It becomes a TikTok trend. Everybody knows about it overnight. Um, it's wild to be on this end of it looking back because that makes me feel old. I'm like, how much happened in the last 15 years that even I'm like, how does that happen in
Yeah,
today's day and age?
wild. I see so many fans complaining about promo too. They're like, this
Hmm.
song was a hit with no promo. And I'm like, we need to come together once again. I'm always trying to get us together to get on the same page as a society. Like, we need to decide what promo is.
Yeah.
Is it
Yeah.
running the late night show circuit and performing your song on The View or wherever, whatever daytime show is still lucrative? Or is it that you posted a TikTok promoting your song? I don't know. I'm confused about like what the definition of promo is in 2024
Hmm.
Well, people
because
get annoyed too when you do
yeah,
promo. But what were you gonna say? Because what?
I don't know.
I'm sorry.
I don't remember. It probably was not a profound thought, so don't worry.
Well, because what you were saying though reminded me of I have been enjoying Tanner Adele's music. I believe I started listening to Buckle Bunny when well, her album, because so there's like the Buckle Bunny Deluxe album, and then I've listened to her older cuts. Tall Grass is one of my favorite songs that she's done, and I'm waiting to hear Whiskey Blues, which comes out tomorrow, April 12th. But she had said something back to a fan on her social media in which they were like, getting tired of her promoting Buckle Bunny, and because they were like, "Don't you have other songs?" Which obviously she does, but it was interesting because she said, "Why wouldn't I promote a song that's like hit these charts that's continuing to climb?" I feel like there's a disconnect with this generation when it comes to what promotion is. Because they're like, I'm hearing it too much. It's like, well, because you're following her on social everywhere. That's why. The second, she needs to promote it because she's not, there are no music television shows. She can't hop on to anything. Her social media is her platform. So if you feel like you're overhearing Buckle Bunny, listen to another Tanner Adele song. But like she's not going to stop
Yeah.
promoting the song that is the entry point for people who are like, oh, I listened to Cowboy Carter, or I know Tanner was on Beyonce's album. Let me go listen to her most popular song. So she's going to keep doing that so that it's like a gateway to what the rest of her music is. And I feel like sometimes when people are so used to content dropping all the time, they assume that that means that they should continue to get content,
Hmm.
different content. I mean, like I don't, for instance, promo for fans when they're just like, I haven't seen so and so in so long. They need to promote themselves. And it's like, do they? The album came out, it hit. We're up for awards. There might be in the studio. You haven't seen them out on the streets. But that doesn't mean that the company's not promoting them. The banner's everywhere. The song is on radio. The song is streaming. There's a music video that came out like a month ago. What are you complaining about?
Yeah.
So,
Hmm.
Yeah. It's a
like,
good
I
point.
don't,
I
It's confusing. I don't think anybody knows what they want.
Yeah. I also feel like in today's day and age, there's maybe that's an overestimation or an underestimation, but less music videos these days because there's other ways of promotion. So you sometimes see that if an artist releases an album, they'll maybe do a music video for the first track and then the second track, and then they just let the album go and do its own thing. And if it's working, it clearly is working. But I do see a lot of fans in comments going on about how, oh, they missed the boat. They could have done a music video for this, or they could have done a music video for that. And maybe it's just because I am the primary way of watching music videos in today's day and age is YouTube, watching them on their
Even
official accounts.
YouTube has declined as a platform
Definitely, without a
for
doubt.
music because if
Yeah.
you like, even in the past 5 years, if you look at the number of views of certain videos, like to talk about Katy Perry, people always call her album Witness a flop. Meanwhile, she released four music videos for that album. One of them for a song that peaked at like number 50 on the Hot 100 has over 1 billion views.
Mm.
So is the song a flop because it didn't chart well? Was it released at the right time for YouTube? Like it's just there's no, I don't know. I'd be interested if there's any people studying this. I know it's not like the most important thing to study in the world, but it is important. I think it's important to fans to understand like the differences in data and time periods because you can't just drop a music video on YouTube and then it hits 100 million views in 3 days. That doesn't happen anymore.
Hmm.
Just
Yeah,
doesn't
without a
happen.
doubt. And here's the thing, like the artist still makes the money from those views on YouTube. They still make the money from the streams on Spotify. So for somebody to deem something a flop because it doesn't chart in the same way that it used to, we're not in 2008 anymore. But back then, one of those like front-facing artists like Katy Perry, Lady Gaga, Beyonce, well, no, Beyonce and Taylor probably could, but one of those front-facing artists could just drop in music and it would go straight to number one and the world would be celebrating. But there's far too many different platforms now, too many different artists, and too many different ways of listening to music. So
But I
someone's
mean,
going to
look
hit
at
somewhere.
Anti-Hero. That song was number one for, I don't want to get the stat wrong. I think it was like 8 weeks. Has over 1 billion streams on Spotify. The music video, I think it's sitting somewhere in the 100 mils. Like just
Mm.
no one's watching it anymore.
Yeah,
It's
you're
also
right.
because people rip it and then they put it on other social media platforms.
Fair.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's you can only exclusively watch it on YouTube. What I find interesting though, when fans complain about there not being music videos, and this is not about the upper echelon of the music world. They choose what they want to put out. But like for those who are in the middle of the row, people complain. I'm like, you realize music videos are expensive, right?
See, I was gonna say that, and we've said this a lot about fandom in relation to like CW shows too. Like when you're asking, we're like, "Oh, bring back the show." We've said a lot, like sometimes fans don't know what they're asking for completely. Because you revive a show from being canceled, you don't know what it's going to look like when it comes back. Budgets will be cut, stars will not come back. And you ask for a music video, maybe you'll get it, and then you'll complain that it wasn't good enough. And it's like, well,
Hmm.
the label probably gave them like $15 in a Target gift card and said, have fun. I'm like, they're not gonna, they will probably go big for the debut single if you're a huge star, but like the budget probably decreases the more you create music videos unless that the album cycle is really hitting.
Hmm.
Mhm.
I'm like,
Yeah.
sometimes I'm like, we don't know what we're asking for. Because if you get a video where it's just like them performing the song, pretend, like there's so many performance music videos where they're just like in a band setting performing the song, and you're like, cute video, but didn't really add to didn't have a story, didn't have like a world. And I'm like, would you complain if that was the video that you got? Or like, what if it was like a
Mhm.
tour video where they just didn't have a budget for this song, but they wanted to release a video and it was just like clips from tour? Like, would you complain about that? Sometimes I feel like we need to really sit and think about what we're asking for.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I
Although
feel like
Beyonce should really drop some visuals.
I think she's gonna
I don't
wait.
really go there. I don't go there, but I hear the fans and I'm like, I too wouldn't mind a video.
Would love a video. To be honest, I think she's gonna wait till all the acts are done
It would make
and
sense.
and then do a complete story all together. If they do link up, I don't know. We don't know her vision. She's a director, so I'm sure it's cooking in the back or
Wait for the
already
vision.
filmed.
It's another another piece of advice I would give all fans of anything.
Mhm.
Hmm. You never know what will come your way. And I think a lot of artists are ahead of the curve these days as well, because obviously you're right, music videos are expensive and like some of them are basically mini movies these days, let's be honest. some of them tend to do obviously the lyric videos that the music channels can use. Others do a visualizer video, which honestly, when I was younger, I was like, what's the difference between a music video and a visualizer video? And then you realize it's just the artist lip syncing to the song on a bed with a wind machine. And like, that's so much cheaper than like getting them out in front of all these green screens. And I mean, like, if the music video channels can use that and it ticks all the boxes and the fans are happy with it, there you go. I mean, like, tick all the boxes.
Do you remember when
Mm.
lyric videos were fan made?
Yes.
Yes.
God
Yes.
ugly fonts,
Windows Movie
just
Maker.
random like press photos.
Yep.
Like,
Hmm.
God, those were the days like when we were in middle school and high school.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
the artists and the labels were probably like, wait a minute, this is a lucrative business idea. We should like gatekeep. And then they did.
But you know, some of the people who made those videos definitely make you visualizers now. They just went to art school, so they didn't design
I
school,
mean,
so they
good for
do it
them.
better now.
They deserve a cut.
Yes, I mean, they kept a lot of us because if we didn't know the lyrics because you didn't go buy the album or the album for the CDs that didn't have the lyrics in the liner always hurt my
Get at
soul.
that. Yeah.
I'm curious about like the legalities of that though, because like that was on YouTube before streaming,
Hmm.
Hmm.
but it was just on there, like the
Yeah,
full
they didn't
song.
care. They didn't care. Well, so when I think they started caring what late 2000s when they started paying more attention to YouTube when they were like, there's a bunch of content on here that we own and that they are
Yeah,
just
even
letting
like
rock.
YouTubers can't like have a song playing in the background or Universal will be on their case with the
Hmm.
copyright
Mhm.
strike.
Those were the days, though. I
They
miss those
were.
days.
Every time I come across one of those old lyric videos and you'll see it was added to YouTube 15 years ago, it's like YouTube was not alive 15 years ago. It
It's
really does take you
weird.
back. It does, isn't it?
Mhm. I've been holding it in because I really want to talk about Cowboy Carter, but
Do it.
there's no good way to segue, so I'm just gonna hop right on to the horse. Um, you know how there's this instinct to when you hear something fresh from an artist that you enjoy that you really like that it's going to like you're like, oh, it's the best thing they've ever done. And I've been really sitting with Cowboy Carter trying to figure out if it's my favorite Beyonce album,
Ooh.
and I think subjectively. It just is like edging Lemonade out structurally. No, like objectively, it's top three. But I think objectively it's still a tie between Lemonade and Renaissance. And I think that has to do with the interludes. But then I also struggle listening to the album without the interludes happening first. Like I have had Yaya on repeat because it's a really great song. I love all the blends of genres, and I cannot wait to see her perform that in some capacity because it's going to be amazing. But I have to listen to the Linda Martell show before I listen to Yaya. Like I was out walking and I started Yaya and I was like, I can't, I need to hear Linda. So I went to YouTube when I sat through the commercial and then I listened to the Linda Martell show and I listened to Yaya and got my life as I was walking because I need all the interludes now.
I kind of like I don't want to tell Beyonce how to run her business. Like that's no one should. Um, but when I was listening to the album, I was like, I kind of wish some of these interludes or intros were like tacked on to the actual song.
Mm.
And I don't know why that choice was made. It's her business. It doesn't really impact me too much. But I think some of them, it would have been really cool to just like tack it on to the beginning of the actual song instead of having it be its own track.
Yeah, well, I
That's
think
just like a,
Tyrant's like that, right?
I
Dolly
think.
Parton starts, it's not like another Dolly P part two. It's literally her just in the beginning and then Tyrant goes. But everything else, you're right, it doesn't naturally go through. For instance, Oh Louisiana after Yaya, she does that high note and then it abruptly cuts off if you're just listening to the to the music, the lyric video. And I was like, oh, now I want to listen to Louisiana, but I can't. But oh well. But I do understand what you mean. I think there are other albums she's done where the interludes did just bleed right in. So it feels jarring if you're listening to them separately because you can hear the beginning of a note and then it goes away and you're like, oh, if I didn't know the structure of the album, I would have no idea what's supposed to happen after
Mhm.
this. But I really she did country her way, and she's right, it's not a country album, even though it's labeled one because the majority of the songs are country or country inspired. But I just I adore it as
It's really
a
good.
I'm not a country girl. I'm suburban, but like family is country. So I'm like Surrey by way of the country, if you want to go that way. Is I just really, it's just so it was so fulfilling, so stirring. I got emotional when it opened. And I rode that wave from American Requiem, Blackbird into Protector. And I think, oh, no, which number three? Because it's not Protector, because Protector's number four.
Is Daughter
Uh,
high up?
hmm?
I don't know. Is Daughter high up on the track list?
No, Daughter's after Jolene.
Oh, I see. I don't know. I can't picture it.
Well, how you would remember that is she told Jolene to not mess with her man, and then she kills Jolene and Daughter. So you keep those two together. But no, I mean it's a transitional album too. I like that it starts with the roots of country and then moves more and more into her sound that you're used
Mm.
to. She's an artist who blends. I'm in awe of her
Yeah.
always.
I mean, I would have never expected Beyonce to release an album like this, which I think is the
Same.
exciting thing about it.
Mhm.
Um, I will say my favorite on the album that I am obsessed with because it is extremely relevant to my taste in music is Bodyguard.
Mm.
Like I just such a bop. Like such a like let's roll the windows down and have a can of pop in the car during the summer. Like I don't know why I just said pop. I don't call it pop. I call it
That's because I
soda.
didn't think you did, but we were gonna let it run. I remember it was the
I think
vibe you
it's
were
because
feeling.
not sponsored, but I love the brand Poppy. That's the soda that I
Okay.
drink. So I think I've been calling it pop more because of that brand. Again, not sponsored, but I would Poppy if you're listening. I will take like a lifetime supply. Anyway, I love Bodyguard.
I didn't at first. It grew on me. And I don't know. I was trying to figure, I think I was still living in the more countryer sound. So when we switched
Mhm.
to a more country pop-esque,
Like a Fleetwood Mac-y, like
yeah,
easy listening 70s soft rock.
yes. And I was like, I'm not sure. But like I can't, it's infectious. It's really, I feel like I don't know, people are gonna like this comparison. If Bodyguard is the adult pop song, right? Levi Jeans is the very cutesy one. It's the only sugary cute song on the darn album, but I really love Levi's Jeans. Like
It's a good one.
it's it's fun pop. Okay, so there's some I wish I could remember who'd said this because I saw it online. They had talked about how they like glitter country.
Was that like
And
Carrie Underwood and stuff?
hmm And like Taylor in her early days and Levi Jeans would classify. I think Tanner Adele is kind of glitter country, depending which song it is. But it's really it's like a it's not it's country pop, but it's just something sparkly about it. Like there's just
Hmm.
something fun in daytime and sunshiny about a glitter pop or a glitter country song. And it's like I've never heard glitter used as a description for music before. And I love it. I'm probably going to use that from moving forward. Now, when something sounds very bright or shiny, and lives in the realm of pop that is nonsense, like really not really saying much on the song.
Hmm.
Like Levi Jeans is not saying much on this song other than, you want to be with the person that you love, that you're attracted to. You want them to hold you all the time. But like she don't really have to say much. It's a fun song. Not every pop song has to be soul destroying or soul forming. Some things can just be fun.
Yeah. Taylor Swift uses glitter to describe she I don't know when she said it or where she said it or why she said it, but she described her songwriting three different ways: glitter gel pen, fountain pen, and there's one other pen. Swifties, you gotta help me because I can't remember what it is. But it was like classifying the different types of songwriting she had where like glitter gel pen is like her pop songs, like Karma, Shake It Off, like the fun stuff. And then I think fountain pen, I don't know what kind of pen a fountain pen is, but like it was more for like artsy stuff, I think. I can't for the life
Wow.
of me remember off the top of my head what the third category of Taylor Swift songwriting is.
Should we Google?
Um, we could Google.
Hmm,
What
I'm
is
gonna
it?
do it now. Taylor Swift pen. Oh, wait,
Fountain
no.
pen?
Music pen. Just put music pen. Maybe that's what can bring it up. Okay, so Apple Music has a playlist for her fountain pen songs.
Hmm.
Ooh, I wonder what's on it.
I'm on Reddit. So, oh, quill pen. This is when she's
Quill Pen,
fancy.
that must be the fancy one, like Folklore Evermore.
Oh yeah.
So according to somebody's chart, on the Taylor Swift Reddit, fountain pen is like lavender haze, maroon, you're on your own kid, midnight rain, and question. Oh,
Moody?
and then quill pen is antihero, snow on the beach, and mastermind.
Oh,
Uh,
these are all midnights.
yeah, I think I'm on the midnight album. Oh, yeah, they said every song at midnights. And then glitter pen is bejeweled and karma.
Paris too. They should have added Paris.
Mm, is it there? No, it's not there. Someone said there's a potential fourth pen type, permanent marker.
Okay.
What is that? Is that reputation? Like, is
Maybe,
that the all of
maybe.
reputation?
Yeah, maybe it's the entirety of Tortured Poets.
Just like it's just gonna live here for. Well, then what's dry erase? What would she like to like? It's there. We put it out, but we don't talk about it no more.
It's the version of Picture to Burn where she says, "I'll tell mine you're gay." That part that's been
Mm.
erased from the world. And
Mm.
also the part in Better Than Revenge where she says she's better known for the things she does on the mattress, which was taken out of Taylor's version. Maybe that's dry
Oh.
erase. The stuff that she's like, let's clean it up.
It's like it's like, oh, I wrote it in like pen. Let me just get the white out.
Yeah,
Uh.
she's doing the crossword with her pencil now. Anyway,
Ah,
just to say that I guess glitter semi exists in the world. It's a good descriptor. I think I like it.
yeah, it's fun. And it actually describes like a lot of pop
Yeah.
that people enjoy, whether I mean we don't believe in guilty pleasures, but people that glitter add in genre is probably what people would list as their guilty pleasures.
Yeah.
Mm.
I'm glad you said that because guilty pleasure, especially in music, I don't believe in.
Agreed.
Mhm.
The world needs more glitter.
Yes. I mean it's also fun. Like I am so sorry to the man who does these covers because I remember his last name is Parrish, but I don't remember his first name. But I was listening to rock versions of Disney songs. And when I say rock, I mean guttural singing type of Disney. There was a video of I'll Make a Man of You from Milan. And I was listening to it and I was like, yes. Like, because I really do that sound. I've loved that sound since I was 9 years old at my friend's house listening to Freak on a Leash by Korn. I think they were on TRL or something, and I just remember us in our school uniforms bouncing to this like heavy guitar sound. And I was like at 9, I was like, I think I do like a little in my music.
Have you listened to Obsessed by Olivia Rodrigo?
I have not because I want to listen to it, the whole like the album. And so every time it comes up like on the
Oh, have you not listened
Spotify,
to Guts?
I have not listened to Guts. Fun story. I thought I bought it. I bought another edition. I bought an edition of Sour because she does her our albums purple. I had never seen the cover of Guts. I was like, oh, this must be it. It was just the Target cover of
Oh, I gotcha.
Sour. But I just re-listened to Sour and enjoyed it. But
Yeah.
I want to
I
listen to
love
Guts.
Guts. Guts is so good. I love her. She's
Is it
another one I've been
rockier?
obsessed with. Upset like the she released the deluxe edition of Guts and they all are kind of a different flavor. There's Obsessed, which is like I think her rockiest song in my opinion. Like I know she got nominated for a Grammy for Best Rock Song for Ballad of a Homeschooled Girl, but I want to say Obsessed rocks a little harder. Like it's
Hmm,
so good. And then there's like her ballads. One's like a little bit country tinged, which I was like
nice.
kind of love that. And then her new one's called So American. Um, and that's kind of just like a pop rock power ballad that's just cute. But yeah, there's a lot of different flavors in the new tracks that were added on. But I think you'd
Hmm.
like Obsessed because she's rocking hard.
I need to listen to that's for my homework for the weekend is to listen to Olivia Rodrigo's album. There's so many albums that I have not listened to because I haven't been listening to complete bodies of work. I've kind of just been listening to like singles or other songs. Like I think besides before Cowboy Carter, I think the I listened to Tanner Dell's Buckle Bunny Deluxe album. And then, to be honest, I think the last thing I listened to, like fully, like album wise, was Hozier's new album. Because everything else
That
has
was
just
good.
been songs. It is, it's really good. He's always,
It's really good.
I don't understand the metaphors about Dante's Inferno,
Mm.
and where he was going with the circles and whatnot, but the album is amazing. I need to take a course or something to understand what.
He released that new EP with like songs that didn't make the album, and I was reading as I was like sampling them on iTunes, like descriptions for all of them. He was like, "This is the song about like getting out of hell," and I'm like, I don't understand. I'm not smart enough. I didn't finish my creative writing minor."
He's amazing, and I mean, I think this is his first concept album, kind of. I'm trying to think about the other two and whether I would classify them as concept albums. I don't, this one is like, I mean, when you decide that you're going to do Dante's Inferno via song, and it's a metaphor for, after the pandemic, your breakup, along with, the changes in the world. And I'm like, it's a concept album, right? Like it has to be a concept
Hmm.
album because how is Dante's Inferno a gigantic allegory for everything that's
Yeah.
happened in your life since you put out the last album?
Yeah. It's a lot. I
It
don't know.
is. I love thinky musicians. I love ones that also just want to let you have a fun time, but I really love the ones that make you think, whether
Hmm.
it's lyrically or it's sound wise. Like to go back to Cowboy Carter, that's like a dissertation on the evolution of country into rock. And like a lot of the birthplace of music for the things that Beyonce is interested in sounded that started in the South.
Yeah.
Hmm. I love
Yeah.
albums that tell a story because there's sometimes you hear a song out of context and you go, oh, that's really, really good. And then you listen to the album the whole way through and you can kind of see the narrative and everything. One that I love that I think is incredibly underrated is Kelly Clarkson's Chemistry. Y'all know how much I love Kelly Clarkson as well. Like the anthems are there. Everyone loves the anthems, but like a lot of her more recent work is a lot very underrated. Which is why I'm glad when she uses like karaoke on the Kelly Clarkson show to like sing some of the tracks from that. Because first of all, vocal masterpieces, but like songs like Mine and Me are really, really powerful. And then you have like catchy ones like Red Flag Collector and like out of context, they just hit. But then you listen to them the whole way through and you can see how that album tells a story of like empowerment and everything. And yeah, oh my goodness. If I could just like rant about how much I love Kelly Clarkson, how much more spotlight she deserves these days, I could. But I think of all the like albums I've listened to over the last couple of years, that's one that it stuck out to me at first. And then it's not, I don't want to say it's easy to forget about because it's not, but you remember how awesome the songs are. And then you go back and listen to it again and it's like a whole listening experience the second time around.
Hmm.
I love it when artists do that. It's so powerful and she's so underrated. Yeah, I could listen to her listen sing the phone book, let's be honest.
Yeah.
But
She needs to for some anniversary or something, re-release My December because that album from 2007, oh my God, it went diamond in my house. I listened to it so much, but the world was like, what is this? And I'm like,
Right.
you can't get on board with Kelly Clarkson making a rock album? Get out of here.
Right. And we were talking the other day about how albums maybe have eras or whatever. And like that was an era for her. Everyone was like, wait, why are you doing this like dark era? Because like every song on it was
Let her
more like
cook.
somber. It was amazing. And like, Don't Waste Your Time. Oh, I love that. The music video, like that high concept music video right there. And then the album cover, wasn't it like from that music video shoot? And she's
The fact that it was
amazing.
like the first album of her, it was her third album, but it was like the first one where she really had a hand in co-writing all of the songs, and then
Mm.
the industry and the way people reacted to it. I just, they should all apologize. Because again, Kelly, it went diamond in my household.
So many bangers on it too. Like I mentioned, Don't Waste Your Time. Sober is an amazing one that maybe you don't always get on first listen, and then you hear about it going back and listen to it, and it's just so
She
powerful.
sang Be Still on karaoke
Hmm.
recently, and I was like, you need to just one whole show, just sing the whole album.
Yeah. Let the TikTok generation rediscover it. Because it is so true. Because I remember after obviously since you've been gone and the like classic pop rock sound she kind of cultivated for herself, everybody was so excited for that album, and a lot of them were like, "What is this?" And meanwhile, I'm over here like, "This is amazing." Of
I know,
course,
but the most emblematic thing about the music industry is her career because after that album didn't perform and she had to fight to release it with her label, the album right after was All I Ever Wanted, bright pink, orange. They photoshopped her on the cover. She hated it.
Yeah, I
Her
remember that.
first single, My Life Would Suck Without You, number one. And it's like, of course, they let her begrudgingly do what she wanted to do as an artist, and then they forced her to do more pop, and it was successful. And they were like, "Told you!" Like that's such a bummer. Of like that happens so often. I feel like, and it shouldn't have happened with her, even though it was
Yeah,
early-ish in her career. Like she's Kelly Clarkson.
right,
The Americans chose her
right.
to be their idol.
Best vote ever. Um, no, I totally agree. And I don't get me wrong, All I Ever Wanted was one of my favorite albums at the time, but I
Same,
agree.
same. I know I'm like dragging it, but I
I,
loved it too.
but if you shut your eyes and listen to it, it sounds great the whole way through. I agree. A lot of the material, the overly bubblegum pink, like bright red lipstick, pink but yellow backgrounds, not exactly Kelly Clarkson, but they
Two
wanted
of my
to.
favorite songs, though, pop rock songs written by Katy Perry.
Yeah, yeah, I remember being obsessed with that as well. Long Shot, and I Do Not Hook Off,
Yep.
classics. Um, and Long Shot was such an underrated sort of gem. I'm getting off track, but really it
Oh,
was.
no, this is
Um,
the track that we're on. So it's the right track.
it really was. Um, but and then I actually are stronger. The album she released after that. It's now having looked back on Kelly's career and what we know about her, that was probably more long term in the vein of what she wanted to do. It had more of her
Grammy
input, but was
winning
still
album.
exactly. I think that was one of the first times. Of course, All I Ever Wanted, I love, but that was one of the first times I was like, I love every single song on this album. One of my
Hmm.
favorites. I still have the physical CD off it. I feel so old saying that. I still have the physical CD off it and I listen to it all the time. Incredible song. And then I know after that she had more of more sorry, a list of incredible songs on it. And I know after that she had more input in what she wanted to do afterward. She took her music in her own direction and it was successful. And I do think that's one of the bonuses of today's day and age in that not every album has to hit number one to be a success. Not every album has to hit the top five to be a success. You could be number six for a week, sell millions of records and do thousands of millions of streams, and it's super successful. I think we're starting to realize that there is a bigger picture in today's day and age. And I think that's one of the good ends of streaming. I know I just rambled about how much I hated it about half an hour ago, but like there's more of a chance for people to at least cultivate their own audiences. And I think that
Hmm.
gives them more of a chance. Not like that post X Factor age that if your album didn't hit number one, you were dropped and never heard from again. Whereas now people get to make their own sounds, people get to build their own audiences. And like Kelly Clarkson's a perfect example of that. She had a lot of ups and downs, but she still made killer music throughout all of it.
It
Hmm.
does mean though that the crowd the arena is crowded
Mhm.
because you have the ability to upload whenever you want to. You can cultivate your own audience. That also makes it harder to be seen. And I also think to go back to fans, there's a disconnect between understanding that someone is doing well, like musically, doesn't necessarily translate to financially. Like
Mhm.
Yeah.
they're still like um fighting for their food. They're still like trying to get gigs because they have to, like they're not on tours, so they have to try to get onto tours. Then you're not really seeing them as much. Um, it's just a lot. Like a lot of the artists are hustling because they have to. And that's not to say that musicians didn't hustle in the past because they did, but I feel like there's a difference to it. It's like I feel like it's even harder would be someone's gonna be like, it's not harder than it was in the past, but like
It's just different.
it's
Mhm.
different. I think there's a different level of it being hard. Like the metrics are harder to grab onto.
Yeah, it
Um,
shifted where like album sales were probably like the biggest thing, the biggest moneymaker, and now it had to shift to like now it's probably touring, but like and streaming probably isn't doing a ton of, but like you, it's all, it feels impossible when you really think about it, but it's just that the goalposts is different and it also moved.
mhm.
They changed the goalpost and they changed the location of the goalpost. So it's like I couldn't imagine being a new artist today and like trying to figure that out because it just was it's a completely different industry than it
Yeah.
used to be.
And your mess ups live forever because you also
Mhm.
have to do your branding online. And if you you know, you don't have media training. So it's not the days before, like you got if you were messing up before you hit it big, people didn't like it was word of mouth. It wasn't, someone has you on video from such and such period that you didn't realize someone was recording, and now people are judging you for something that happened 5 to 10 years ago. That has a
Mhm.
story behind it, but they don't really care because it doesn't fit. If they already didn't like you, it doesn't fit the narrative of, oh, well, I despised you and now I have a reason why. But before I just
Yeah, when people
despised you.
make up their minds, it's hard to change their mind.
Hmm.
Yeah. And that's not to say people shouldn't be held accountable for things that have happened, but sometimes there's assumption that they weren't already because they weren't held accountable in the public sphere, that they weren't held accountable privately, and you wouldn't actually know that.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Especially if it's
Yeah.
something that happened with somebody else. If they handled that privately years ago before you knew any of the two people's names, then it shouldn't be dragged into the public arena.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff is not our business.
Yeah. And
Right?
there's so much more eyes on things in today's day and age that it's just sometimes you can't avoid the reaction to it. Even if, like you said, Sabrina, it's already been dealt with in private.
The
Yeah,
discourse really does discourse.
it
Hmm.
It's
does.
discoursing on the internet. And it's
Right?
from the big things to the little things. And it's so disheartening to see cycles continue. Where like maybe in the past a certain artist was exploited in the public
Mm,
eye. I won't name names because I'm sure there's a few that are in your head. Um, the way the media treated them, the way fans treated them, what have you. And we see that now and be like, oh, we shouldn't do that again. And then it's such a slippery slope to getting caught again in that cycle. And it happens so on such a small level to where I'm seeing it now. I'll name names, Dua Lipa, and it's on such a small level where she's in a new album cycle and it's her own fans too, from what I've seen of people criticizing her choices of the aesthetic of the album cover, the music videos, the sound of the music. And it just feels like they build these pop stars up to tear them down if they aren't doing exactly what you had imagined or what you
mhm,
wanted. And I think that's when the cycle can continue. It's like such a small shift in conversation about an artist to where it's women mostly, to where that cycle continues. And I hope people realize that, like, yeah, it's not the end of the world to criticize. Like, I don't understand the aesthetic of this album, but like when it's constant and the critiques are pile-ons, it can create that shift like it did in 2017 with when Katy Perry released Witness. Like these they call it hate trains on the internet, and it's like it makes it popular when you see people piling on and criticizing a certain artist. It it shifts people's opinions. Like that influences their opinion because you see people saying like, "Oh, this video sucks," and then you see a clip of it and you're like, "Yeah, that's terrible." And it's like, "Did you watch the whole video? Is that really your opinion, or was that tweet you saw coloring your perspective before you even saw it for yourself?"
mhm,
It's a whole thing, but I think it's really dangerous to like, not that I think that we should sugarcoat and pretend to like everything that our favorite artist releases, but I don't know, I just the way that I see people talk about it, and maybe again, I'm old, but I feel like I've lived through this stuff before with my favorite artists, and to see it happening again with like the new It Girl, it's like, what are we doing?
mhm.
What are you guys doing? Like the music is good. Let her do what she wants to do. If it's not your thing, it's not your thing. Meet her with the next album.
Yeah.
I
Hmm.
don't know. It's so disheartening to see how that can snowball. Like the
Yeah.
smallest thing can snowball into something enormous. And I really hope that that doesn't happen for Dua because it's
Right.
unfair. She hasn't done anything wrong with the music she's released. I don't get it. I'm like, I'm bopping. Why isn't everybody else?
Yeah, I've never heard a bad Dua Lipa song. Every time she's on the radio, anytime she's on a talk show or on I heard clips pop up on my Instagram feed, I'm like bopping away to the
People are
tracks. Like,
saying the songs all sound the same. And Sabrina, I know we briefly touched on this in the first part of our music podcast. And um, I saw the funniest tweet because all these insiders are trying to say like what the Tortured Poets Department is going to sound like. And insiders, there's so many insiders on Twitter. And I'm like, what's the truth? Who are you? Is this real or are you just making up rumors? They're saying like, oh, it sounds like Reputation, but also Red. And then there was a tweet that was like, we've seen so many people claim what the Tortured Poets Department sounds like, comparing it to her past albums, and they were like, it sounds like Taylor Swift made a Taylor Swift album. And I'm like,
Mhm.
exactly. Dua Lipa is making a Dua Lipa album. Like, I think it's so, I'll say it, I think it's sexist to demand a female artist to completely shapeshift with every
Mhm.
album cycle. It's like, that's, why do you want that? And why are you mad that it's too similar? I don't know. It all is just so stressful to me because I'm like, can we just enjoy the music? She didn't have to release an album. Like every album that a pop star makes is a gift when they reach a certain level of fame. I'm
Hmm.
like,
I think we talked about this off pod, but everyone wants an era. Like every new album has to be
we need to
an
banish that
era.
word after Taylor finishes this tour.
But it's true. I mean, people really do want to be, they want to be in, well, I'm just gonna go back to Beyonce. Like we finished our Renaissance era and now we're in Cowboy Carter. And yes, there are artists who, as they've gone in their career and their taste has evolved and or shifted, they do put out albums that sound sonically different from one another. Then there are artists who the sound is similar, but the lyrics are not. Or it's a and this is what I am assuming Ariana's is for me once I do finally listen to the album. That it might be one of those things where to me uh it sounds sonically the same, but her lyrics have evolved. Or the beginning of the album sounds sonically the same, but it starts transitioning and broadening outward to what she's influenced or was influenced by while she was recording it now. I think it's one of like I think I talked about this on another podcast when we were talking about music, but this is kind of what happened with Paramore.
Yeah.
People love early Paramore. I love early Paramore too, but they were not always going to be those 15-year-old pop punk kids running around banging drums and like giving you the like heavy music. It is interesting that as people's shift as they learn more about music, they shift more towards pop. There's just some, I mean, there's a reason why it's called popular music. Like it is a blend, it's literally a blend. It's of all the other genres. You can do so much in the space. So I think either you grow with an artist or you don't.
Yeah.
And it's
It's
and
confusing because it's like, do you want them to keep making the same album? Would you complain then that it is boring? Or are you mad that they changed too much? Which I don't think, in my opinion, Paramore was still like in their lane. It was just a different flavor with what was the album called that had Hard Times on it? After Laughter.
Mhm.
That felt like a departure, but like it still hit. I don't know.
It does still hit, but it's not pop punk. And I think
Yeah.
that's what people they were initially known for. And there's something about, moving out of the lane that you first came in that you do lose people. And that's okay. Like if you started,
But those albums still exist. That's always the
they
thing that
do.
I'm like, go listen to the old stuff. No one's
And they still
saying,
play the
no one's
songs.
deleting them.
And they still play the songs. And I don't know. It's just I love that too. And when I miss it, I listen to Riot
Right?
or the album following that. But I also do enjoy that they play in more mature rock now. They are more mature people. They are not, it's
Yeah.
been over 15 years.
Yeah.
Hmm. No, I think the whole conversation around eras really annoys me because I know there are people that really own it, like Taylor, for example. But like in the 90s, like Madonna had her dark era,
Madonna.
Kylie had her dark era, but then the next albums they were like Beautiful Stranger and Spinning Around, which was their quintessential sound. And nobody was like, it's more of the same. Like it was perfectly accepted back then. You look back, like those are two artists that people say evolved with the times beautifully, and yet most of their songs still sound like a quintessentially them song. I honestly don't think there's anything wrong with that. And then there's artists who just do the same thing for their whole career, which is honestly nothing wrong with that. You can evolve if you want. You can change things up if you want. But at the same time, if you just want to keep producing what made you successful, I don't think there's anything wrong with that either. Yeah, I'm sure you can take risks with tracks on the albums or whatever, but like if you're buying a Dua Lipa album because you want to listen to Dua Lipa's music, you're going to want it to sound like Dua Lipa's music. So I don't think there's anything wrong with appealing to your own fan base. Of course, your music will evolve with the time and as you change it and you get older, but we still know what a Kelly Clarkson album or a Beyonce album is supposed to sound like. And more often than not, you're going to get that. So that really bothers me that like social media has given a voice to people who think they are critics and they're not necessarily saying anything. But if those tweets go viral, that mud sticks with the artist, and sometimes they can't get out of that loop. And like, it's not fair on the artist. Like, keep screaming to the void all you like, but you don't need to like bring the artist down for doing what they like to do, if you know what I mean. That went round in circles, but I think I made something of a
Yeah.
significant point in there.
Yeah, but it's like also like if the music isn't charting like their past most successful music did, that doesn't mean it's bad.
Yeah, right.
It's just the way things work.
Yeah, though that's not to say that it's not true that occasionally an artist or a band puts out a safe album because they
Yeah.
do. Sometimes, I mean, because it's the same thing with like, it's their art. Sometimes you do safe things because you were trying to get at the recording company. They needed one more album, so you gave them the album. They either like it or they don't, but that's the only thing that you're required to do. And then when you move to the company that you want to move to, you're going to do the project that has your heart in it. Or,
I have a great example for that.
oh,
Do
give
I say
it.
it?
Yeah.
The transition from Kelly Clarkson making Piece by Piece to Meaning of Life on a new
Yeah,
recording on a new
yeah,
Oh,
label.
okay.
yeah. That one came to mind, you know.
Piece by Piece, I love that album, but you could tell that half of it was like she put an effort, half of it was like, just give me the songs so I can get out of this contract.
And that happens. Like it is a thing. Or sometimes like to move into books briefly. Um, Authors, if they're working with a publishing company, have a contracted amount of books that they have to do. You can tell when it was originally supposed to be like a trilogy and they asked them to do like two more books. We're dragging our feet. The story isn't what they wanted anymore until you get to
The
the
book
final
is
book.
shorter.
The book is shorter, shorter. Or you can also tell when, they had to get a book in. So it feels like there's potential there, but it's rushed. Or we just really didn't get where they wanted to go. And it's not really their vision, but it is what it is. I think people have to remember that all of this is a business. And sometimes they also are doing things because they have to. Sometimes the single isn't, they're like, why did they release this single when such and such was better on the album? Because the company told them to.
Yeah.
It's what they listened to it. They had their team of analysts search what's popular and they released that track. Sometimes it's even a track the artist didn't want on the album, but it had to be on there
Mhm.
because of the record company. You aren't the only ones mad. Sometimes they are too, but they have to smile and promote and be also happy about a song they didn't care for either.
Yeah.
hmm And so,
Yep.
sometimes it's super successful. I always remember the one anecdote I always remember is Tina Turner was not a fan of What's Love Got to Do with It. And she did not want that
Oh.
on the album. It was the second single off her first real solo album of her solo era, straight to number one in the US, and it was the only number one she ever had. Plenty of top five hits, particularly in the UK, but like legendary song now. So I mean, like sometimes the labels get it right, um, but I do think that as we move into this new era, artists are starting to be able to say more of themselves and explore more of themselves and just be more of authentically them. And that's what I do like about this era, that it allows for that, which is why it bothers me when people like jump on social media and start blasting themselves on loud when we just did not need to hear that negativity. Like, let everyone be on their own journey and find themselves.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. To champion duo real quick though, Training Season and Houdini do not sound the same
Mm-mm.
No.
at
No.
all. And I don't understand what the issue is. I know people like cutely put like there's such and such artist PR or there's such and such artist publicist, but then there are people who take it too far where they're like they dislike the sound, so therefore it's bad.
I
Or
just don't
like it's
understand
weird.
why, when did the aesthetic become so important? Like, why does the, I just don't understand, guys. I don't get what the big fuss is about her album cover or like the single covers or the music videos. Because it's like, I don't know. I fear a lot of the music stands of today wouldn't have survived in like the bubblegum era that we grew up in of like pop stars.
Hmm.
Because not one of those albums, love all the artists to death. I'm not going to name them, but there was no like aesthetic vision. It was a
Hmm.
photo shoot. They did their videos and none of it matched. Even some of like the most popular albums of the last 20 years, like the album cover and the album art doesn't always match every single song. That's okay. It doesn't, all the videos don't combined to make this one cohesive album cycle era world, and that's okay. I'm
Mhm.
of the mind that like whatever the artist produces, I will accept. Will I like it? I don't have to. Do I have to tell people I don't like it? Not always. Am I okay with them creating their own world for the singles and each having them each be their own colorful moment? Absolutely. I think that's fun because with Teenage Dream, we got a video in Candyland, a video in reality, and a video in space. How does that connect? It doesn't. It's just fun pop music. I don't know. I just like I think it's so unfair of to 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 critique something one before the whole thing is even out, and two to say that none of it matches. I don't know why it needs to. Because the average consumer isn't seeing the promotional materials for an album and saying, I'm not listening. It's confusing.
Mhm.
What?
Mm-mm.
You can't blame that on why a song isn't doing well because you think people don't think the album cover is, I don't know. It's just like, it's, it boggles my mind to see the discourse about album aesthetics and eras. And I'm like, some of you didn't grow up in the late 90s and the shows.
No,
Yes,
no.
it is a generational difference, and I do think this is social media's fault. Like, I do like because the way that like music marketing, what like they were really promoting things is that yes, they had the girls out in aesthetics that matched for whatever they were dropping. If we were, if it was like candy-esque, we were doing a sweetheart bow, long silky hair, lovely dress, and it's just cute. And then we'd switch to something else. Now they're like, but wait, this doesn't match this, and this doesn't match that, and doesn't match that. As a, welcome to the TRL era, where you were
Right?
waiting for the new music video to drop, and no, the music videos were not the same, and that is
Britney Spears'
okay.
album, Oops, I Did It Again. The album cover is just pretty. It's a beautiful photo of her with gold, whatever. The first single takes place on the planet Mars.
And then
None
Lucky
of the
is
other singles do.
no,
No.
That's
Lucky's a
not the
movie
theme of the
actress.
album. Yeah,
It's
I'm like,
not.
why can't we have fun?
I don't understand why we can't I I know it doesn't match people's edits and it doesn't it does for I think the issue besides social media is that people wait years for albums and then they start creating these dream worlds of what the album is going to be and when then they're disappointed it's not that
Yeah.
they can't sort
Hmm.
through that that is a personal problem and not the problem of the artist.
And anytime like an artist says anything, like a slight tease about like a theme or like describing the music or the album or something, they really grab onto that. And they're like, I was expecting a butterfly era. Where are the butterflies? And I'm like, I always say pop stars lie. Pop stars change their mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Artists, let's just say artists change their mind. Creativity takes you to weird places. And maybe you had one vision, you scrap it when something else hits. Beyonce changed her album cover and title.
Mm-hmm. Yes, she did.
Yeah.
Yes, she did. And then, it happens.
It
That
does.
is that is just it is just what it is. I think also like with artists, the thing is some things even get delayed because like maybe we started dark and then someone had a child and we're no longer in
mhm.
this
Or
dark
maybe you
era.
thought you were making one album and in the process you worked through it and you're like, wait, I don't want to make that album anymore.
Hmm.
That's okay. You don't need to release the dark album if you don't want to. As much as
Yeah.
fans, I don't know why fans want darkness all the time. They're
There-
like, I want my dark pop album. Where's the dark era? And I'm like, one, what does that mean? And two, I don't know. I like having fun.
Yeah, and like we grew
Yeah.
up in an era when the dark albums were always looked down upon, and like, what were they thinking when they did that? But like sometimes an album's just a collection of pop songs that don't necessarily have to mean anything. And, that's a good
Yeah.
time. You could just go from head after head after head after head.
But yeah, you're right, Michael. In our time, a dark era was they dyed their hair black
Heavy
and
eyeliner.
yeah, they were like, oh.
Christina. Christina. That Christina Aguilera, that era for her, one bangs. But two, it was one of those that was back when the media had carte blanche in the US to say whatever they wanted to say when it came to the pop stars. And usually for the dark era for them, it was, we're rebelling, or we're about to have a mental breakdown, wait for it. And they would hound them with the cameras waiting for the
Yeah.
breakdown to happen. And then when it did, they were like, told you so. I was like, you sure it wasn't because you were there with the camera for 6 months straight outside of
Yeah.
Mhm.
houses and cars and hotels and everything under the sun you could possibly be outside of? I mean, but also sometimes the dark era is just a moment. It's it's a performance. It's what we're doing. It's how we're
Yeah.
living. And then we're going on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Mm.
It's just, it's all so much. I'm like, I don't know. I just stream the music and try not to worry about things becoming a hit because it can become a hit in my own house, and that's fine.
Exactly. It's what matters to you. I mean, like people have layers, and not just us, like artists as well. And like I just said how much I love a concept album that tells a story, but at the same time, I just love, like me in 2008, loved pop album after album after pop album. Don't get me wrong, I love to read into things, but not everything has to be a philosophical conversation about what
Okay,
the song means.
when Ellie Goulding released her most recent album, Higher Than Heaven, I think it's called, she was like, yeah, it's just pop songs.
Love the honesty.
I was like,
As it should
great,
be.
perfect, amazing.
I know. I never thought we'd reach the era where we have to defend pop music being pop music. Um, that's just the thing. But like I mentioned 2008, like one of the boys by Katy Perry, "Waking Up in Vegas" goes straight into thinking of you. Two completely different songs that maybe not interlinked in the slightest. And like,
She's one of the smartest. I'm gonna say it. I'm wearing the shirt. You guys know I'm a stan. I was thinking about this recently because I've been listening to her music a lot lately, as always. But she's so smart because she has so many songs that are themed to events, like Waking Up in Vegas, Vegas Anthem. It'll play whenever someone's talking about Vegas. Like California Girls is like the summer thing, teen like Firework, Fourth of July, Roar. Like so many of her songs are themed to things that they will always be played in relation to these things. Like when
mhm.
Peacock launched, she has a song called Peacock. Like girl loves a theme and it shows in her songwriting, and she's got a song for like every kind of theme you would want. Birthday, like she's got everything that you would need.
The pop
Timeless.
pen is immaculate for her. I don't
It
think it's
Yeah.
is.
talked about enough.
No, it's
Um,
not.
she's not really praised for her songwriting, which is weird, because I mean, she is pop.
They
Like
try
it,
to tell
they,
me that the songwriting and the lyrics in Witness were bad, and I'm like, what album were you listening to? I live off the echoes of your I love yous. One of the most like stirring opening lines in a song that she's ever written. I'm sorry.
I
My
want.
bias is showing.
What is it? I have not listened to Witness. What is it about Witness? Is it that it just wasn't what people thought she was going to go sound wise, or their
It was
sound
a
things were
hot mess of
commercial?
an it was the timing was so weird. It also had to do with her cutting her hair. People
Yeah.
couldn't handle
Mm.
the pixie cut, the blonde. They were like, "Where's your black hair?" Not even her natural color. Um, she made the mistake of calling it purposeful pop, and people took that to mean that she was going to the whole album was going to be protest songs and political.
Oh.
And I think they misconstrued what purposeful meant to her because even on the Wikipedia page, it still says she described it as purposeful pop. And I'm like, oh my God, those two words are going to haunt me for the rest of my life. Because if you listen to it, it's purposeful to her. Like she has songs about her own like liberation, like her own sexual liberation and feeling like she released the shackles of being that like pinup girl who was only like known for her beauty. I think that too
Mm.
part of her cutting her hair was like a rebellion to like just being seen as like a sex symbol and like, okay, well, I'm gonna take away the thing that made me a sex symbol. I don't want to speak for her, but I feel like this is stuff that has been spoken about. But yeah, I think that whole album, it was just a whole mess of things, and people thought the songs didn't hit. It was compared to Teenage Dream, which is confusing because Teenage Dream was two albums
Mhm.
before Witness. So I'm like, I don't know why that was still the thing that she needed to surpass, but I don't know. That whole it was a tough living through that era as a fan because it was
Mm.
like I'm enjoying the music. Apparently, no one else is. What's happening?
Oh, she
I don't
deserves
know.
so much better. I feel like
No,
people have always been tough on her for some reason. I remember when Firework came out, people were like, actual music critics were like, I don't know why she wrote the song. People were like, it's not that great of a song. Other people were like, it needed someone like Leona
They made
Lewis
fun
with a
of it
bigger
being
voice.
singular. Like,
Um,
why is
yeah.
fireworks singular? It's fireworks. And it's like,
Oh,
oh,
good
because you're
grief.
gonna pick apart anything. Got it.
And I'm sorry, the song has aged remarkably well. So there
Mhm.
you go. Um, she's deserved flowers even in her like golden era of those like pop anthems. She certainly deserves them now. I wish the radios played her music more often. I wish she got the attention she deserved. But hopefully, whenever her long-awaited next album comes along, it'll be her Renaissance era, so to speak, and then she'll finally make a comeback. Well, she's
I
always
hope
been there, but
so.
she deserves it. She really does.
I know people call her a flop, and I'm like, does a flop make
Couldn't.
25 million per season on
No.
American Idol?
Let's
Yeah.
see. The other thing with people being declared flops, though, because they're in the later stages of their career, it's unfair to do that because she's not like she's still a pop queen. But you know, like, as when you're not in the forefront anymore, people then say, "Oh, it's your heyday is over," and it's like in some cases for people, yes, that's true, but that doesn't necessarily mean that because you're no longer interested in this person means
Mhm.
that they don't have an audience who is interested or can't move units or don't have influence or if they've sat out of the game for a little bit and that's okay. Though it is difficult to get back in, everyone knows that. That's why everyone's always scared when they are going to take a break. All right, like what are they going to do? But I think that's why Beyonce is always, at least to me, come off as being someone who lives true to, is this the art that I want to make? And if this is the art
Mhm.
that I want to make, then it doesn't really matter what anybody else says. Like you're either
Yeah.
gonna enjoy it or you're not. If you're not gonna enjoy it, leave. Actually, that's what she says in my house, more expletively, but that's what she says in the song. Because she creates this loving environment for everybody to enjoy her music. And if you're not interested, there's the door.
Yeah.
That's the end of the discussion. We don't need to keep having the discussion. Argue with me for what? You don't like it.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna change my sound.
Yeah. It's
Mhm.
like if you're not like a fan, if you're a casual fan, no one's forcing you to add it to your playlist or listen to the song or
Mm,
watch the video or buy the album. No one's
no.
forcing you.
And if you're a fan and you feel shackled, it's okay. No one is keeping you. This is not a hostage situation. If
Yeah.
you if you if you if you feel like you are gravitating towards different sounds and the artist who you truly loved is not meeting that musical need for you, it is okay to leave. It's heartbreaking. You will grieve, but it's okay to leave.
I also think there's something to be said to like hitting pause. If you're a super fan of somebody and the new music isn't you know, you're not connecting with it, take a break. Take a few
Yeah.
months. Listen to it with
Mhm.
new ears. Maybe you're not ready for it. There have been so many albums or artists even where I was like, I had to like not interact until I found it, till it naturally came into this sounds so weird, but like sometimes things find you when you're ready,
Yeah.
Mhm.
whether it's a show or a movie, or you're like, there are so many times I watch something, I'm like, I would have not been able to appreciate this 5 years ago when it came out. Like I needed to watch it now as I am, or listen to this song now. Or there's songs by an artist that I love where I'm like, I didn't connect with it when it came out,
Hmm.
but years later I listen to it and I have a new appreciation for it. Maybe it's also just that like when popular things come out and so many people are talking about it, it can be overwhelming to engage with that media because you have so many opinions rattling around and you see so many articles, tweets, whatever, so many people are talking about it and it doesn't feel like it belongs to you.
Yeah.
Like when you wait a while and you can listen to an album removed from discourse, conversation, reviews, then it can feel personal to you and it can be your own thing and you don't have to talk
Mhm.
about it with everybody else.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So sometimes I think there's a case to be made for, hitting pause and it's okay. Even if it's your favorite artist, they'll be fine. They'll do okay without your streams that first week, I promise you.
You definitely don't have to turn into that meme where it's the guy taking the headphones off. Like, especially if you're checking in with yourself. Like, if you know that you've been listening to ballads and like your favorite artist has dropped a full-on pop album. And you're like,
Hmm.
oh, I don't like it. It's like, do you not like it, or were you waiting for a piano? Were you waiting for some strings? Like maybe we
Yeah.
should, like you said, push pause. That way you're not like it's just that's not where your tastes are right now. Or
Yeah.
if you don't like certain genres, the album's less likely not going to be for you. If someone switched up their genre for an album and you're not a fan of it, if you're not a fan of rock and your favorite does a rock album, this might be the time to sit out.
Yeah.
Hmm.
The
Yeah,
old albums will always be there.
Yes.
exactly. And you can return to that artist whenever you want.
Hmm.
Music is timeless, people.
There are
It
also
is.
so many other artists in the world.
Hmm.
True. True.
Oh, but don't do that thing where you get into a new artist and then suddenly it's like, I don't know what I was doing. I don't know. I was listening to that other person.
Yeah, no.
They're clearly not an artist like this person. It's like, no, your taste just changed. Don't throw the person you liked
Yeah.
under the
Yeah.
bus.
Yeah.
Appreciate
It's
who that
okay.
was or who you were when you listened to them.
Oh, I love
Hmm.
that. I do. Artists talk about meeting who they were,
Hmm.
and like sitting with them and being like, oh, so and so had it rough. Like I had it rough. Or that sound was a moment. I mean, I can't talk positively about it, but the sound was a moment and we all enjoyed it. And I love that people love the song. I love when they do
Yeah.
that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Music's profound.
Yeah.
It is.
I think we can end there. I feel like there's oh, one more thing. Y'all get ready because the pop girls keep dropping. So this might
Hmm.
20 the first part of 2024 really is music heavy. Dua's coming out, Billy's coming out. Reed, I feel like there's somebody else that I'm missing. Not Taylor because
Dua,
we talked about her.
Billy, Taylor. I mean, not as popular over here as she should be, but Perry Edwards comes out tomorrow, her
Yes.
debut.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there's plenty more coming
Oh, I'm
because
sure.
they're all dating their albums in the spring for whatever reason. Megan Trainor has a new album coming out. No one talks about her enough. She's
She
Agreed.
a dark
sounds
horse.
so, she is a dark horse. To be honest, she kind of lives to me in the same lane of fanciful pop as Katy.
Hmm.
Except Katy is Katy more glittery? I feel like Katy is more glittery than Megan.
Oh, I need to
Megan
send you some
is,
of her angsty anthems then.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yes, you do.
Yeah,
Like
she
I
can
just
get deep.
Well, you know what? Actually, to be fair to Megan, I think with exception to One Love Song, which like I wish I could remember the title of it because I really enjoy it. Most of Megan that I've listened to has been radio hits, and then
Hmm.
occasionally like
Hmm.
they love to play her in like the Targets and the Walmarts. Like you
Yeah.
bop in selecting some clothing, and you're like, this sounds familiar, and you should jam it, and it's Megan.
I heard a couple weekends ago, I was grocery shopping and I heard Piece by Piece by Kelly Clarkson to circle back. And I was like, this is
Ah.
the
Oh.
strangest, most emotional song to be playing in a grocery store. Someone's going to have an emotional breakdown in the milk aisle.
I heard that in my
Like,
restaurant recently. I was like, I have not heard that song in
I was
years.
like, I know it was a hit, but it's a choice to play in public.
Well, because then you start wondering who has the aux in the back, who's just
I
playing it because
know.
they do their
Yeah.
playlist. Like, because you can always tell when it's the Target approved, the grocery store approved, and then when it's like somebody's clean
Oh my
playlist that
gosh.
they're playing.
When I went to Target the day of the 1989 Taylor's version release, I walked in, I was like, ooh, Taylor's playing. And I'm in there shopping and I'm like, every song has been Taylor, even deep cuts. Someone had the playlist rocking in the back. And I was like, this is amazing. I'm gonna sit here all day.
Because
Respect.
right, because they would not, the store would not do that. Someone was like, I'm manager today, so
I
I'm gonna
know.
do what I want.
I was like, it's different. What? That's deep cut.
It's fun. It feels right to end on Taylor. So
Yeah.
we should end there. I feel like I should tease y'all. We are going to start yet another era on the CW spiral. We don't know what that era is going to be, but as a heads up, we are not watching a single CW show that's airing right now, and that's likely to last through the summer. So bear
Hmm.
with us as we transition into doing other things. We most likely will ask y'all what you want us to do. But it's gonna be a ride as we wait for Superman and Lois to come out
Hmm.
because that's the one show that is dated. Unless we get Wild Card season 2 and they tell us it's coming in the fall, then you're definitely getting that as
But
well.
where's the renewal though? While we're mentioning it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Get on with that.
I know.
Um, who knows? Maybe we'll find our dark era. I'm kidding. That was January 20 or May 2022.
Uh,
Oh gosh.
thank you for listening, you guys. Ready CW Spiral. I'm Sabrina.
I'm Michael.
And I'm Reed.
Oh, and I said listening, watching. Thank you. Bye.